He had the highest ratings. I don't care for skin color polls, but he's higher rated among blacks now than among whites.
Wow.
Because percentage-wise. But that's unheard of, in Republican political history, that they get it. They saw firsthand how immigration was hurting them. Illegal immigration was hurting them.
But I also wonder, and we've definitely talked about this on past podcasts, is it really that Trump won, or is it just that, which obviously he did, but or is it just that people realized how destroyed the Democratic Party is at this point?
Well, there's I forget who the person was, but they had a very good comment, and I do believe this too. Everything happens for a reason, right? We know we don't want to believe that. We don't in the moment. We don't think it, but they had a good point. They said, as ugly and as bad as 2020 was,
right,
and for all that particular president had to go through, it was necessary because people would never have believed just how bad this country had become.
Right.
So, what happened to Donald Trump, for those of us who believe that the election was questionable, there were things that deserved a pause to be answered to prove that the President Biden was legitimate. There's nothing wrong with that. We have it built into our Constitution at the time. If there's an issue, there is a process. For those of us who, think that, you never would have believed in overdrive how bad they got over this one person. Not to say that stealing hasn't always gone on in election. And guess what? Even when we have voter ID, please God, there will still be some stealing. There will still be fraud in an election. It happens.
You're still going to have dead people voting. It's just how it's going to be.
Well, I don't know if you might be able to get rid of, because if it's voter ID and you're using a thumbprint or some biometric to vote, like they do in a lot of countries, you can eliminate a lot of fraud or discourage people from trying. Having said that, we probably never would have gotten to that point because we always would have had that fringe amount of fraud. They took it to such a level and really just magnified through the mail-in ballots, basically. Right. Magnified where the corruption is and took it on a whole new level, or the possible corruption.
Well, I was talking more about, and I completely agree, but I'm talking more about the fact that the voice of the Democratic Party's kind of gone. And what I mean by that is, now that Biden's out, who do they put in next? You said someone's going to creep up, but I felt like AOC was really the only relatable person for my generation. And now we're seeing her have a mental breakdown on Twitter, which is hilarious to watch if you guys want a good follow. Where now it's like, oh, who's their young Democratic voice? There isn't one. Not that I know of, and I have my ear to the ground when it comes to social media stuff. So, okay, what happens in 4 years? Some guy's going to creep up, but it's just going to be another seasoned politician, probably in his 40s or 50s.
Not necessarily, but the interesting is, the thing is, the Democrats, this is of their own making. They chose one individual. They went after one individual. Somebody like AOC, the past 4 years, she made it as other Democrats. The whole point, we're going to resist. Not these past 4 years, 4 years before. We're going to resist, we're going to resist, we're going to resist. Problem is now, they're not resisting the man anymore. They're resisting resoundingly what the American people said they wanted. Okay? So when they saw the weaponization of our government against one individual, okay?
Yeah.
Even if you didn't like the guy, not the Trump derangement people. I'm just saying people who are level-headed liberals who, I can't stand him and I'm not going to vote for him. But even they were voting, and independents were voting that, this has to stop. You can't weaponize government against one individual who's running for office.
Well, I think the independent vote was won once RFK was announced. Like, when you look at his cabinet, the people he's picked, between him, Kash Patel, Hegseth, it's a pretty stacked team. I feel like we're looking at,
It is, but the
Olympic team, the NBA Olympic team.
That helped a lot for people on the fence, but instead a lot of Democrats turned on him rather than come over with him. Many independents were scratching their heads. But it's really, I don't think it was one individual. I really think it was just how badly things have been run in this country, literally into the ground.
Oh, yeah.
And you can't take for granted. We talked about this in the podcast. The Democratic Party just killed themselves.
Yeah.
It's just like, step back and let them just implode. They don't want to admit it. The media will not admit it. But for common thinking people, you have a president who embarrassed himself in a debate without any help at all from the other candidate. All Trump had to do was stand there and let the guy just do what he did. So what do? They installed the most unfavorable candidate in that party.
Right. But as we talked about before, I feel like you brought up a good point because we were just talking about it too at my wonderful birthday party. Like, there's really no point in releasing the RFK, JFK, MLK documents. He said he would, which is why he's doing it. But I do feel like it's kind of the nail in the coffin in the sense of, hey, I'm putting out all this information to show you that Democrats and other Republicans before me have all been lying to you. Right? There's a reason that these didn't go out.
Right.
So what does this do? And to me, it just kind of destroys. It's kind of like doing something without having to do anything. You release these documents, it just goes to show all the corrupt people in politics for 50 plus, 100 years.
And I have a sneaking suspicion, as do other people, that I think we're going to find, I think part of the reason why Donald Trump is doing it, remember, he's of that era, the 1963s. That's when he was a young man out in the world in New York City. But I think you're going to find something went on with Trump's assassinations. And I'm not so sure it wasn't a government. I don't want to make conspiracy theories here, but I need to know enough facts because there is a possibility that our own government.
Those won't be open for how many years? I mean,
no, but it opens the possibility because people are ready to already dismiss it as conspiracy theory.
I have to say the one
When
downside.
you put out statements showing that in 1963 our government may have assassinated our president. It wasn't an outside. It wasn't Cuba. It wasn't the mafia. That our own government may have been involved in that.
Right.
That will blow certain people's minds who still think it was Cuba or it was the mafia or it was somebody back then to the possibility that, damn, if that happened then, what's stopping them doing it now?